video on LPR tuning. Now, I'm not exactly Billy Wing, so I may not know everything there is to know about the fuse bolt for the die, but I'm going to show you what I do know. This is how the bolt works. Now, the reason why I'm going to show you this is it's important as you go through and you tune your LPR to kind of understand how the bolt works. Basically how the bolt works is obviously, this goes in here, you know, these parts come together basically like that. Now what happens is, I'm going to put this together without the bolt in it, just so you can kind of understand how this bolt works. Okay? This bolt operates like this. Here's how this works. This back here is high pressure air that is stored up behind the bolt, ready to fire at all times. The low pressure air is what cycles this back and forth, okay? 99% of the problems, if you ever have a problem with your DM or PM that uses an LPR, it's gonna be the bolt sail O-ring. But with that being said, low pressure air cycles this bolt back and forth, pushing on the front and the back here, and high pressure air is always here in the back. So here in the back, this is always 160 PSI. This right here could be 70 or 80 PSI, cycling the bolt back and forth. It fires, it's ready to shoot. Fires, and it's ready to shoot. With that being said, if your LPR pressure is too low, this is why the bolt sticks forward, is because there's not enough pressure pushing it back against the high pressure air that's on the back of the bolt. So the first thing you do when you start tuning your LPR is you need to make sure that it's up high enough to push the bolt back to counteract the high pressure air that's in the back of the gun. This is all high pressure air. Low pressure air just cycles the gun. But if the low pressure regulator isn't high enough, then the bolt's going to stick forward. I'm going to show you that. Now, we'll go ahead and take this apart. Now, one of the tricks with lubing, when it comes to DMs, my recommendation is lube it often, but use a very small amount. You always want to make sure that your bolt is as clean as possible, and you want to lube it often, but using a very small amount. Now, the reason why you don't want to put a lot of lube on your parts is whatever doesn't stay on the O-rings is just going to get blown out the front of the barrel, and it's going to stick to the ball, and it's going to cause your barrel to be coated in lubricant, which is going to cause your shots to be off. Now we just take it. So you don't need to use an incredible amount of lube here. The bolt sail O-ring, which is basically this red O-ring right here, is the most important O-ring on the fuse bolt. It's also the cause of probably 99% of the problems. If you ever have a problem with the DM, you always just replace the bolt sail O-ring, and most of the time that's going to fix your problem. Okay, so we've got it lubed up. Slide it through. And we'll put it together. Now, as you saw, I didn't put an incredible amount of lube on it. It's not dripping in it. And we'll put a little bit here. Now, a lot of people will do this little flick test. That's a good way to check, you know, where they'll just flick the bolt forward to make sure that it goes forward. So cool. So we've got our bolt put together. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put it into our gun. And we just push this all the way forward. We get our Allen key. And it takes about 2 turns to tighten it down. And now that's tightened down. And then now what I'm going to do is, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and reduce my LPR pressure. Now, the way to think of the regs on the DM series is like the water spigot on the outside of your house. If you back it out, you get more pressure. If you tighten it, you get less pressure. It's the same thing with the DMs. Now, this is going to be the tricky part here. Now, I've got the LPR turned all the way in. There still is no air pressure in the gun. Now, watch what's going to happen here. I'm going to put the air on, and because there's very little air pressure, you're going to see the bolt stick forward. Okay? You see how the bolt is stuck forward? It's because, like I showed you, there's not enough air pressure to push the bolt back against the high pressure air that's stored in the back of the gun. So now what we're going to do is we're going to slowly back the pressure up a little bit, and you're going to see the bolt get sucked back. and keep going. Oh, there it goes. So it just got sucked back. Now what we're gonna do is turn the eyes off and let's shoot it, and let's double check and make sure that it's getting sucked all the way back. And it looks like it's the bolt's being sucked all the way back. So we know that that's a good place to start. Now let's go ahead and let's get our chronograph. I'm gonna go ahead and put the loader on here. Now this is the next step, and it's also one of the most important parts of testing out your LPR settings, making sure you're getting the right LPR setting, is obviously you need to get over chronograph. Now we have the eyes off, so let's go ahead and turn them on. Okay, so our eyes are on. So you want to see where we're starting to get some pretty good consistency here. So that's not too bad. Now let's go ahead. Let me back this out. Whoops, drop the Allen key. Let's back this out just a little bit. Or tighten it up a little bit just to get the velocity below 300. We're a little over, so let's go down a little bit. So you can see our velocity is a little all over the place. That's not what we want. We need to back this out a little bit more. We should start to see our velocity tighten up a little bit. Let's go a little more. Probably need to go just a little more. Should start to see this start to tighten up right around about 290. There we go. So it looks like we're sitting right around about 290. Now we know we should be getting close on our low pressure regulator. Now let's go ahead and just shoot a stream. Let's check for any drop off or any crazy hooks or spins or anything like that. Now that we got the LPR backed out enough to where it sucks the bolt back. Now what we need to do is go over here to the LPR, to the chronograph, and we need to shoot until we're sitting pretty much within about plus or minus 5. So we hope to be right around about 295, and every shot we hope to be in between 290 and 300. We got a couple hot shots here and there. But for the most part, we're sitting right around about plus or minus 5. Now what we'll do is we'll sit here and we'll do we'll shoot it, and we'll shoot it down range and just make sure we don't see any drop off or anything like that. So that looked pretty good. So that's basically how you tune the LPR. First off, make sure when you're lubing your bolt, you do it often, but use a thin amount of lube. So after every single weekend of play, take your bolt out, clean out the insides, and put a very thin amount of lube and put it back in. You've got to do that. Then what you do is tighten up your LPR. Now you got to make sure there's no air in your gun when you do that, or you'll damage your reg seat. So make sure there's no air in your gun. Tighten up your LPR. Then pressurize your gun. You're going to see your bolt stick forward. Back it out until the bolt gets sucked in, and then you want to shut your eyes off, shoot it a couple more times, and make sure that the bolt completely returns on its own. Then what you want to do is get to a chronograph and then start backing it out and raising it up a little bit more until you start getting into a reasonable amount of consistency, and shoot it downfield and make sure that there is no drop off and you're getting a nice pattern down the field. Now, the thing is, if you forget to lube your gun, what's going to happen is you're going to start to see bolt stick and your rate of fire is going to drop. So you need to make sure that you lube your gun after every single weekend of play and put a thin amount of lube on there. If you don't do that, you need to raise your LPR pressure even more to compensate for the lube that's been shot out of the barrel. Thanks for tuning in.